I've told the story, and I love the story of the African pastor who was talking to a friend of Kristen and ours who started in ministry in Kenya for an orphanage for kids. And God had spoken to her at night and says, I want you to start this orphanage. And she's a retired school teacher. She knows nothing about starting anything, never mind an orphanage in Kenya, who she was just visiting with her sister, never been there, was just taking it in. And so she's there, and God says, no, I want you to do this. And she says, up all night journaling as Jesus was talking to me, start this orphanage. I want you to call it Oasis of Peace, and I want you to do this and this and this. And she gets up in the morning, and she goes to church, and she's being overwhelmed by this. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And she goes to the church, and she goes, I'm in the back row. And she's really funny. She goes, I stick out. She's almost 6 feet tall. She's pasty white and has red hair. She goes, I stick out in Kenya. And so she's sitting in the back row and just having trouble with this. And the pastor says, oh, our sister here, God told her to start an orphanage called Oasis of Peace. Won't you come up and tell us about it? And she's like, what? And so she stumbles up and she goes, I talked about it. She tells a story of what she went through. And she finishes, at the end of the service, she walks up to the pastor and she says to him, I can't believe you knew that. I can't believe you knew that. And he looks at her and says, why would God not tell me that? He said, that's what you Americans, you're surprised when God shows up. We're surprised if he doesn't show up. We expect him to show up every day. Every day we expect to hear from him. Every day we expect to see him. Every day we expect to get a word from him. But you guys are surprised when he actually shows up. He goes, what's wrong with you guys? He goes, also, I don't understand your prayer. You do this prayer of pray for the Holy Spirit to be present. He's in you. If he's not present, that means you left him at home. He says, you should never be praying that because he resides in you. He goes, I don't get you Americans. And I just thought that was so, when she told the story, I'm like, oh man, Gigi, that's an amazing story. I said, you're right. We are surprised when he shows up. And you're expecting him to show up every single day. So you're surprised if he doesn't show up.